Welcome to A Balanced Life on the Go. I'm Dr. Nicole Lindsay, your host on this podcast, along with Dr. Brian Jeanette. This is a podcast designed to help connect you to a more balanced life on the go. Each week, we will bring you simple, concise, and easy to implement ideas, tips, and strategies to help you connect to better nutrition, movement, and thinking so you can achieve balance in your busy life. Isn't this what life is all about? Trying to achieve balance so that we can be healthy, happy, and live to our fullest potential. We're glad you joined us. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to podcast number 11.
Number 11 already?
Number 11.
I lost count already.
Your feet are your foundation is our topic today. So excited about this topic because, man, our poor feet, they're just not given enough love.
They are overworked and underappreciated, really.
Yeah, totally. So we're going to try and change that. We're going to try and help you understand a little bit more about feet health, alignment, how your feet can really play a part in your overall health. And of course, we'll give you the one thing that you can start doing today to start safeguarding your feet, your posture, your overall health as it relates to your feet. So before we jump into that, let's talk about, speaking of feet, let's talk about socks.
So today, I actually am not wearing very cool socks, but they are one of the most comfortable pair of socks that I have. And if you're going to put something on your feet, it's got to be comfortable and it's got to serve you right. I don't squish my feet into tiny shoes, and I don't put any socks on that are less than the best.
This is true.
I'm very snobby when it comes to socks. Yeah.
And I too. I think we need to talk about my socks too. I always bring a little sparkle to my day with my socks. So I've got some sparkly socks on myself. So
there's sparkle and glitter all over this office. Not in just personalities, but in actual sparkle and glitter.
There is. So your foot. I was just talking to a patient yesterday, as a matter of fact, which spurred the idea to do this podcast on feet, was that the number of bones in your foot. There are 26 bones in each foot of your body.
The 26 bones in each of your feet, make up more than 25% of the bones in your body. So
they definitely, we need to pay attention to them. You know, our spine alone has 24 movable bones. So we're talking about our foot, a structure that has
twice as much.
Yeah. So we need to pay attention to that. The foot also has 33 articulations. Each of these articulations have 6 degrees of freedom of movement.
And when you have all this freedom of movement, you have to have muscles that control it. So our foot has over 20 different muscles with 4 to 5 different layers of muscles, all compounding on each other and all working synergistically to help keep support. I mean, think about if we have runners here right now. Anybody that's gone through plantar fasciitis, anybody that's gone through bunions or heel spurs or Achilles issues. Think about how well you function on a day-to-day basis when your feet hurt and your muscles are sore.
It affects your whole body, all the way up. It fatigues you, makes you tired. So not only dealing with pain every step you take, but all of that will work its way up and affect you all the way up.
It affects your emotions too. I mean, and especially we have a patient right now that has been dealing with plantar fasciitis for the last almost 18 months, and she's had surgery. And you know what? She is just absolutely down about it.
Miserable about it.
You know, it affects your emotions and mentality.
Yeah, you can't go through your day without using one of those bones in your foot. You know, I mean, you have to use them. I mean, we have to use most of the bones in our body throughout the day, but, you know, a pinky broke or something in the arm broke, you know, you can cast it and you can use the other hand, but, it's hard to get around an injury or a problem in the foot, as most of you know. 10 of those muscles, of the 20 muscles of your foot, are actually in the arch, which is definitely one of the most important parts of the foot, and we're going to get to that a little bit later in this podcast.
as just as important as the anatomy is the actual biomechanical part of the foot. What actually happens every time we take a step?
And that's such a complicated question, and this is such a complicated topic because of the 26 bones, because of the 33 different articulations. When we say articulations, we mean the joints. We mean the bones moving against each other to create these different angles or degrees of motion. So Dr. Nicole just talked about the 10 muscles that are in the arch. Well, we actually have 3 arches in our foot, and of these 3 arches, they're the 3 things that make our foot flexible and that make our foot dynamic. Anybody here that's listening to this right now, and if you're saying, I don't have any arches, I have a flat foot, I bet your feet hurt. That's the first thing that follows when somebody says, I have flat arches. Oh, I have foot pain, or I have knee pain, or I have hip pain.
Or if it's too chronic, it'll work its way up your leg and cause knee pain, hip pain, low back pain. All the way up.
We can just list off a laundry list of different ailments that come about because you have bad arches or because you have weak muscles in your foot. So when we talk about this biomechanics, we often like to talk about normal gait, right? And so you go to one of these big time shoe stores and they talk about a gait analysis. They put you in shoes, they put you on a treadmill, and then they videotape the whole thing. Well, your foot is supposed to move in very specific ways and very specific degrees. So when you go and you have these high cushioned, really high squishy shoes that go on your feet, you're going to change the way that your foot moves.
Yeah, it's interesting because we think that shoes are made to support your feet, although they may help in giving you more comfort if you're standing all day. But when it comes to the biomechanics of your feet and how your feet are moving every time you take a step, shoes actually hinder that movement.
Mm-hmm. And if you're taking poor or incorrect steps, you're going to increase the amount of force that's transmitted up the spine. So say, for example, if you're taking a step and you walk with your heel, right? You walk with your heel first. You stick your heel out in front of you. If, say, I weigh 180 pounds. Every time I take a step and I hit my heel in front of me, I have 3 times my body weight being transmitted up into my lower back. And so anybody that's tweaked their lower back before that has pain, anytime you take a step, you feel it. That's why it's 3 times the amount of force. And then what about when I run? If I run and I stick my heel down on the ground before, say, my midfoot or my forefoot, I have 7 times my body weight.
So how should the normal foot strike the ground?
So when we're walking, we always want that foot to strike the ground underneath our hip. Underneath our hips, our hips are our center of mass, and they're our center of gravity. When I reach out over my hips to run or to walk, I have to then overcome all that weight. I have to then bring my center of mass, my center of gravity, fling it forward to do that. And that's so not efficient because then I'm just left with this pounding and pounding of my heel, pounding and pounding of my knee, my hips, my lower back. So if we're walking, I always want to make sure that I'm walking with my feet underneath my hips and I'm not taking too long of strides. The other thing that I want to make sure is if, say, Dr. Cole, you like to trail run, so you this past weekend you ran like 6 miles or something?
Yeah, I think we did 5 miles.
Yeah, 5 miles. So every time, that's a lot of steps in 5 miles. You might be taking 10,000 steps when you're walking 5 miles.
For sure.
And so think about if your heel struck the ground for 10,000 steps, you weigh 120 pounds, how much force is that being put into your spine? It is totally crushing your spine.
Yeah, for sure. And, it just zaps your energy as well when
your so much energy.
Gait pattern is shifted in that way and can lead to some long-term issues as well. We talked about a little bit ago how in your lifetime, the average human actually walks 110,000 miles. That's enough to go around the earth several times. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of damage that can happen if your gait pattern is off, if your feet are not aligned properly. So it can affect your whole body.
What would happen, do you think, to your body if we walked this 110,000 miles, if we did every single step perfectly? Do you think we'd break down?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think that, law of entropy says that eventually everything breaks down, right? So I think it would, but I think it would break down evenly. I think it wouldn't break down as fast. We see patients come in and they say, I need a knee replacement on one side. This right knee is bone on bone. So my doctor said, wait for it to get really bad and then we'll do it. Well, why is it just one knee and not the other? And then typically the patient will say, in response to that question, well, I'm just getting old. It's just normal arthritis. Well, that knee is the same age as the left knee. So if that were the case, then both knees would wear out at the same time. So it's not about age. It's about walking crooked. It's about having your gait pattern shifted and having that heel strike or that foot strike incorrectly, transmitting that energy to that knee 100,000 times throughout your lifetime thus far, and now that right knee has worn away faster than the left knee.
It's I love that you brought that up, because we actually have a patient here right now that we're treating for knee pain, and I treat this patient. She's got pain in her right knee, and her doctor said, you have to have a knee replacement. I said, okay, maybe you have to have a knee replacement. Let's take a look. We were treating her right knee. We were treating her for knee pain, arthritis, going through stuff. Well, she didn't have any pain anymore. She did not need a knee replacement. I asked her, what does your left knee look like on x-ray? She said, actually, my left knee is the one that is more degenerated than my right knee, but my right knee has pain and my left knee doesn't.
So that is why we need to look at the body as a whole, right? Yeah. So, and that we do here as well. So, but if you have feet issues, what can happen is that can affect, just like we're talking about, your posture. It can affect your alignment. It can affect your balance. It can affect your energy and your organ health. So one of the things that we see most of the time is degeneration that occurs. And we were just talking about that, how arthritic degeneration is oftentimes labeled as old age, and it just means your joints are wearing away. But just like driving a car out of alignment, we have another patient who is dealing with a broke foot. She has a bone in one of her feet that's broke.
Yeah, it's actually her big toe. So think about not being able to use your big toe.
Which is, definitely one of the most important parts, right? And so now she has to wear a boot, which is heavy. So it's pulling her alignment out big time, altering her gait pattern. And that has caused her now to have back pain, right?
So, and that's actually why she came to see us. I mean, we're chiropractors. We're not going to, heal bones, right? But because she has this small, incredibly tiny fracture on the side of her big toe, she's in this huge this big cast that she's walking in. So not only is she casted in her foot, but now the muscles in her foot can't function properly. Now her ankle is locked in place where those muscles can't function properly, and that boot on that right side is like 2.5 inches higher than the one on her left side.
That won't affect her posture.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's like Eddie Munster, like taking like these big limps, like Frankenstein. You know what I mean? And this is just going to throw off her gait, and it's going to throw off for her. She's dealing with low back pain. Some people, they might deal with knee pain,
hip pain, actually shoulder pain, all the way up. I mean,
Absolutely.
We see TMJ as a result of this. So, and so ultimately, living a lifetime of that can affect the actual integrity of the joints and cause some arthritis, can affect the integrity of the bones and cause some degeneration and then cause tissue buildup as well. We see bunions and bone spurs.
Yeah.
If you carry 20 pounds of your weight off to one side for decades because of your gait being shifted and off, then your body is going to respond, because it's very intelligent, and it's going to respond by laying calcium down in certain areas to help you. And that's why a bone spur forms, or a bunion.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the reasons why we develop degeneration, and we can also develop osteoporosis. because we need to lay more bone down in places that it's not meant to be. And so one of the places to get calcium is either through a completely healthy diet or our existing bone structure. So sometimes what our body's going to do is take calcium from our bones. Say arbitrarily, they're going to take calcium from my left arm and bring it down to my foot because my foot's weak. Well, now I have a weakened bone structure in my left arm. What happens the first time I fall and I reach out with that hand to stop me? I might break my arm. Or, God forbid, any of our grandparents, if we have any examples of that, breaking the hip, falling and breaking the hip. Well, they have osteoporosis from wear and tear, degeneration of, our grandparents' shoes are quite frankly horrendous.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on high heels.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of the ways that your feet can affect your whole body. Another way is, and this is really cool, when you look at babies and you look at children and you see them barefoot. I know my daughter was like this. I could never keep shoes on that baby's feet. And I would buy her the coolest shoes. I mean, she was decked out all the time, right? And she'd kick them off like the first 10 minutes of having them on. And as a child, I gave up. My mom would always say when I'd bring her over, don't you put shoes on that child? She never wanted them on. Well, there's a reason.
They instinctively want their feet to be free.
Yes. And the foot happens to be the second area of the body where your mechanoreceptors and your nerves actually are most dense. So what that means is that your feet are highly sensitive, and your feet are always trying to feel what's going on. Am I walking on a hot surface? Am I going to step on glass? So your feet are figuring this out for you and communicating that information back to your brain. And this is really important. So when babies are walking around and children are barefoot walking around, a lot of their neurological development and the strength of this nervous system is being developed. So we want our infants and our babies and our children to be barefoot.
Yeah, there's this hugely powerful sensory connection between the feet and between the brain. And like Dr. Nicole said, your feet help your brain see movement. Your feet help your brain understand your balance. And as an extension, they help create stability. They help create balance. And if we have this balance that's created at an early age and developed and maintained throughout life, how much more balance and stability will we have when we are 60, 70, 80, right? I know, again, going back to grandparents, I know that we have grandparents that are in their 70s and 80s that their balance is just atrocious. Yeah. And you worry about them falling. But we also know that they might not have taken care of their feet, right, or they might not have taken care of their nervous system to help increase or to have this stability, right?
Yeah, and you know what? What does your brain control in your body?
Trick question. Everything.
Yes. So if this connection, if this sensory information coming back to the brain is altered in any way, then what the brain then sends back to the organs of your body, just putting muscles aside, putting feet aside, putting gait aside, let's talk about our organ health. Let's talk about our heart, our lungs, our liver, our stomach, right? If this sensory information coming back is altered, the brain then can send altered information to other parts of the body, thus affecting your organ health.
Yeah, it may not even be altered, it may just be incomplete. You might just not have the full picture.
And this is where we're going, is that your feet are definitely the foundation of your health. And it does affect, the health of your feet affect your brain and your overall communication between your brain and the rest of your body.
I think of another really big point to talk about your feet affecting your brain and affecting your overall health is that for the past 4 generations, we've gone from this highly hunter-gatherer society, this society where we're always on our feet, we have high levels of movement, to the past 4 generations of sitting, right? All we do now is sit. We have such a sedentary lifestyle. And this sedentary lifestyle, again, putting aside feet, putting aside the type of shoes you wear, but it increases our risk of everything.
Everything.
Cancer, heart disease, metabolic disease, neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's and dementia, even Parkinson's, right? And we know that the healthiest people, the people that live the longest, are active.
They're moving.
They're moving.
Down to the cellular level, right? Life is movement.
Always.
So that's another way. Now, something else we need to talk about are arches. Most of the time when we talk about feet and we ask a patient how many arches are in your foot, they say one. Everybody's familiar with that medial arch of the foot, but there's actually 3 arches of your foot.
Mm-hmm.
There's the medial, there's the lateral, they run parallel, and then there's the transverse arch that goes across the foot. And you need to have all 3 arches in order to have healthy feet and healthy alignment in your body. When you're standing upright, you should have 50% of your weight on the ball of your foot and 50% of your weight on the heel of your foot.
Mm-hmm.
And these arches, they act as shock absorbers. So you really need to have them there. So if you lose 1, 2, or all 3 arches, which we see commonly with people wearing man-made shoes, walking on man-made surfaces, you do not have a shock absorber. And the shock from hitting the ground when you walk has to go somewhere. So if you don't have that arch, it's going to end up going to your knee, going to your lower back, going to your hip, or all the way up your spine.
Yep, every single time. Now, I like that this 3 arches that we have. I'm so glad that you brought that up and pointed that out, because that's what separates us from who we were 2 million years ago. We have these arches in our foot. That's our spring. That's our shock absorbing system. So one way to tell if you have an arch in your foot is if you happen to live by the beach, you can just go walk down to the beach and put your foot in the sand, or walk on the beach and you can see if you have this depression on the medial side of your foot. The other way to do that, if you don't live by the beach, we don't live by the beach. I wish we did.
By the lake.
By a lake, yeah, by a beach and a lake. You can actually dip your foot in just a little bit of water and then put it on a piece of paper. You can, when you set your foot on a piece of paper, that paper is going to absorb the water, and you can see the structure and the outline of your foot, and that one's pretty cool. Also, when we're looking at our feet should be fan-shaped. Our feet should be more narrow at the heel and wider at the toes. But one of the things that's really cool and fashionable are pointy shoes.
Narrow.
Yeah.
Which tends to constrict everything. So Dr. Brian was telling me just a few minutes ago to wiggle my fingers. And we want you to do that right now. Now...
Spirit fingers, as it were.
Yes, spirit fingers. Now, grab your one hand and wrap it around your other hand at your fingers and try and move your fingers now. What happens? It becomes harder to move those fingers. That's what a really tight shoe is going to do to your foot.
Mm-hmm. And when you don't move something in the human body, you lose it.
Exactly. So what can you do if you want to get your feet checked to see if they're aligned? You can just do the self-check, like Dr. Brian just talked about. But you can also get a proper foot exam. We do those in our offices. Basically, we check your alignment in your spine, but we also want to look at your shoes. We want to look at how when you're laying on the table, looking at your soles, and if you are wearing away your shoes unevenly. So doing a visual check there.
Mm-hmm. We have a machine here where we actually order custom orthotics that does a laser scan of the bottom of your foot, and it's actually weighing your body too, to see how much pressure you put on the left foot, how much pressure you put on the right foot, and the distribution of that weight.
Yeah, years ago it was all about casting. People talk about that, how they went to their podiatrist and they had to put their feet in like a mold, and they weren't even standing, they were seated while they were doing it.
I was laying face down when they did a cast. They did a plaster cast on my feet. I don't know how they got the cast off without messing up the mold.
Right. Yeah. So that's older technology. So the newer technology is the scan. And Foot Levelers is the company that we use, and they're very reputable and they're amazing. We've been using those for years, very accurate. But we get right away, the scan only takes a minute, and we get an immediate picture and calculations of, do you have all three arches, your weight balance distribution, and also how that, your particular feet and the structure of your arches are affecting the rest of your spine. We get that immediately, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. So that's something you can do.
Yeah, it's like getting a 3D topographical map of the bottom of your foot. So it's really pretty cool to see.
And then how do you fix this issue? If you find out you do have flat feet, or you already know you do, well, first of all, we need to work to support those arches. And there are three things that we're going to suggest that you do, and this is how we help manage our patients with this issue. But first of all is to get custom-made orthotics. And you want them to be custom because that's what the whole point of this is about, is if you wear something that's not made for you and you, again, alter your gait, how is that going to affect the rest of your spine and your joints for years to come? So a custom-made orthotic is something that's made for you, because your right side may be different than your left side. You may have one lost arch on the right foot, but three are intact on the left. So you want to make sure that what you're putting under your feet are custom to your foot.
Yeah, absolutely. We want them to match your feet.
And you don't want them to be hard plastic. That's also old school.
Yeah.
People bring those in still, and they say, this is what I've been wearing for years. It's hard plastic where their foot cannot move at all. Old school
don't
technology.
Even get me started.
Yes.
So another thing that we can do is we can actually adjust the feet. We're chiropractors. We are trained in adjusting the joints of the body. And a lot of people think that we are limited to just the spine, but we are so much more than just spinal practitioners. We also do extremities. And your foot, like I said, we have 26 bones, 33 joints that are there, so we can adjust every single one of those joints.
It's such a cool feeling to get the foot adjusted too. It's magical. Such a release.
It's magical.
But we can also check your knees, your hips, and your lower back, all the way up your spine, because oftentimes that can be the problem of your foot pain as well. So we want to make sure we work on your body as a whole. The third thing that we can do is soft tissue work.
Yeah, and I love soft tissue work. I do a lot of Graston type work on the feet, Graston type work on the ankles and the shins, and our physical therapist, James, he does a lot of dry needling soft tissue work as well, which can really help to free up a lot of the motion that you didn't know that you were missing.
Yes, exactly. So breaking up adhesions, trigger points in the legs and the foot, that's something that we can do. Also, we want to make sure we give you homework, doing exercises for your feet to break up adhesions underneath that those fallen arches, like standing on a golf ball, and then doing exercises. There's simple exercises that we can teach you that will involve using your feet and your toes to help rebuild the soft tissue in there after we've broken it up and you're wearing better support under there.
Mm-hmm. So we've come to the part in our podcast where we're going to give you the one thing that we want you to do. And the one thing that we want you to do is actually the best exercise that you can do for your feet. So we're going to give you free advice right here, a free advice for exercise, which you can do for your feet, is to take your shoes off and just walk around. Feel the ground. Take your shoes off.
Let your toes move. Let the balls of your feet hit the floor. Stand up on your tippy toes. Stand on the heel. Move your feet. Let them feel the ground. Go outside and walk in the grass. Walk in the sand. Let those 26 bones, let each one of them move and feel the movement in your feet, and feel it all the way through your body as well. So I have my shoes off right now. I might adjust with my shoes off just because of this podcast today.
You just set such a good example. You not only talk the talk, but you walk the walk.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you listening to our podcast today. We hope that this is helping you live a more balanced life on the go. Thanks for listening.
Appreciate it, guys.